नमस्कार दोस्तों, वेलकम टू लाइफ एक्सप्रेस वेयर देयर इज नो ड्रामा, नो फेक, ओनली फैक्ट्स टू कीप यू अवेक। जी हाँ, सही सुना आपने। लाइफ एक्सप्रेस एक ऐसी दुनिया है, एक ऐसा एकेडमिक प्लेटफॉर्म है जहाँ हम बेमतलब की बातें नहीं करते, क्योंकि यहाँ बातें होती है सिर्फ रियल लाइफ के, रियल लोगों के, रियल अचीवमेंट्स की, और बातें होती है रियल नॉलेज की अंडर भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा, जिसकी बुनियाद वसुधैव कुटुंबकम पर आधारित है। वसुधैव कुटुंबकम यानी द होल वर्ल्ड इज आवर फैमिली। भले ही वसुधैव कुटुंबकम और अतिथि देवो भव का पालन करते करते हिंदुस्तान को भारी नुकसान उठाना पड़ा, लेकिन आज हर भारतीय को ये कहते हुए काफ़ी गर्व होता है कि भारत एक ऐसा देश है जिसने आज तक ना ही किसी पे आक्रमण किया और ना ही किसी पे राज किया। हाँ, हमने पूरी दुनिया पे राज किया, लेकिन उनके अधिकार, अस्तित्व एवं संस्कृति को छीन कर नहीं, बल्कि उनके दिलों पर राज किया, अपनी प्राचीन सभ्यता एवं संस्कृति और फिलॉसफी की खुशबू बिखेर कर। इसी भारतीय परंपरा को आगे बढ़ाते हुए लाइफ एक्सप्रेस अपने मिशन पे आप सभी के सहयोग से आगे बढ़ रही है, जिसमें मेरा यही प्रयास है कि भारतीय संस्कृति एवं ज्ञान प्रणाली का समुचित अध्ययन कर उसके भाव को, उसमें निहित संदेश को आपके सामने, वर्ल्ड सोसाइटी के सामने प्रस्तुत करूं, क्योंकि आज पूरी दुनिया में एक नहीं कई कारणों से अनेक प्रकार के संकट के बादल मंडरा रहे हैं। खूनी युद्ध चल रहे हैं परिवार में, समाज में, राष्ट्र में और पूरे विश्व में। पूरी दुनिया आज एक सोसाइटल मॉडल ऑफ लिविंग ढूंढ रही है, जिसे अपनाकर वो शांति और सौहार्द के साथ जी सके। लेकिन अफसोस, दुनिया के पास ऐसा कोई मॉडल नहीं है। लेकिन चिंता की कोई बात नहीं है, क्योंकि भारत के पास ऐसा सोसाइटल मॉडल ऑफ लिविंग है जिसे अपनाकर हम पूरे विश्व में शांति और उन्नति का मार्ग प्रशस्त कर सकते हैं। और उसी मॉडल को हम आज भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा के रूप में देख रहे हैं। तो चलते हैं कार्यक्रम के अगले सेगमेंट हॉल ऑफ फेम की ओर, जहां हम मिलेंगे एक ऐसी शख्सियत से जो वाकई समाज के लिए एक रियल रोल मॉडल हैं, अपने उत्कृष्ट एवं सराहनीय कार्यों के चलते। लेकिन हम में से अधिकांश लोग उनकी उपलब्धि या अचीवमेंट से आज भी बेखबर हैं। नमस्कार दोस्तों, आज के हॉल ऑफ फेम में हमारे साथ एक बहुत ही खास मेहमान हैं, जिनके जीवन से जुड़े कई रोचक तथ्य हैं। इससे पहले कि हम उन रोचक तथ्यों को जाने उन्हीं की जुबानी, मैं चाहूँगा कि सबसे पहले मैं आपको अपने विशेष अतिथि का एक संक्षिप्त परिचय दे दूं। लाइफ एक्सप्रेस के इस हफ्ते के हॉल ऑफ फेम में हमारे साथ जो विशेष अतिथि हमारे साथ ऑनलाइन जुड़े हैं, वे हैं डॉक्टर ईला गुप्ता, अ बिग नेम इन द फील्ड ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर। डॉक्टर ईला का जन्म 23 जनवरी 1978 को महाराष्ट्र के नागपुर में एक सामान्य पर शिक्षित परिवार में हुआ था। बचपन से ही अपनी विलक्षण प्रतिभा एवं उत्कृष्ट कार्यों के बदौलत उन्होंने समाज में अपनी एक अलग पहचान बना ली थी। यदि हम उनके शैक्षणिक जीवन पर प्रकाश डालें तो हम पाते हैं कि उन्होंने अपनी प्रारंभिक, माध्यमिक तथा उच्च शिक्षा अव्वल दर्जे से सफलतापूर्वक पूरी की। Talking of her academic journey, Dr. Ela did her graduation in architecture from VNIT Nagpur, followed by Master of Urban and Rural Planning from IIT Roorkee. Most importantly, she completed her PhD in Earthquake Disaster Management from IIT Roorkee. If we talk about her professional career, we find that Dr. Ela started her career as consultant for Ministry of Home Affairs, then for UNDP. From 2013 to 2016, Dr. Ela served MBS School of Architecture and Planning, GGSIP University, New Delhi, in the capacity of director. From 2016 to 2019, she became PhD program head of Sushant School of Art and Architecture at Ansal University, and it was 2019 when she joined the world's largest education network under the ambit of Amity Universe, where she is currently serving Amity University Haryana's School of Architecture and Planning as its director. Thus, with more than 2 decades of experience, Dr. Ela has published more than 45 research papers and book chapters in peer-reviewed journals of high repute. Along with her relentless pursuit of excellence in academia, Dr. Ela is empaneled in several professional bodies and committees with dignified positions like chairperson of Internal Complaints Committee at Amity University, Haryana, inspector for inspection of many architecture schools in India for Council of Architecture, India, external examiner for many architecture and planning schools in India, external expert for evaluation of PhD thesis for PhD scholars, and external expert for Board of Studies for many architecture schools. And I should not forget to add that Dr. Ela has been felicitated by several awards and recognitions at national and international levels. Some of the prominent ones are GATE Fellowships for Master of Urban and Rural Planning at IIT Roorkee, granted by Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. She has also been felicitated as 10 must-watch influential women leaders in Indian education by the Higher Education Digest, Woman of Excellence Award by Indian Achievers Forum 2022. Thus, there are so many achievements and recognitions to her name. And to know more about Dr. Ela Gupta, I shall take you straight to her through online platform of Life Express, where Dr. Ela has already joined. And pleasure is solely mine in welcoming a big name in architecture, Dr. Ela Gupta. Namaskar, ma'am.
Namaskar, Dr. Jha.
First of all, on behalf of my entire Life Express team and on behalf of my intellectual viewers, I extend a very warm welcome and sincere gratitude to you for your gracious presence in Life Express.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jha, for inviting me. It is a very interesting concept and you're developing it very well. I must say that. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you. मैम, आपके प्रोफाइल को देखने के बाद पता चलता है कि आपने अपनी कड़ी मेहनत व लगन से आज अपने आप को मैं कहूंगा कि आज आपने एक आदर्श आर्किटेक्ट के रूप में स्थापित किया है। तो आज की वार्ता को शुरू करते हुए सबसे पहले ना सिर्फ मैं बल्कि हमारे जो भी इंटेलेक्चुअल व्यूअर्स आपको देख रहे होंगे वे सभी आपसे ये जानना चाहेंगे कि आर्किटेक्चर अपने मूल स्वरूप में है क्या, and how this field of architecture evolved over the period of time. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, I must say, architecture एक बहुत varied field है. Like we all know that architecture is the art of designing buildings. Art and science. It is a very perfect merger of where art meets science.
एंड सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट यू मैम, और साथ में एक और चीज जो कि हमारे दर्शक अमूमन जानना चाहते हैं कि आपको क्या ऐसी कौन सी चीजें थी जो कि आपको आर्किटेक्चर की तरफ प्रेरित किया, वो भी आप इसके साथ साझा करेंगी। जी, ओवर टू यू।
Okay. So maybe I will start with my own journey into architecture. So when I joined architecture, I was quite fascinated with designing of buildings. In fact, I was fascinated with buildings themselves. So, and I was always good with sketching and drawing. And also, I was always a technical person. So it was a perfect field for me where I got to achieve both. So that was my motivation, and I think it was a very right choice I made because it is most interesting education as well as profession when you get into that. Now, architecture is when we say that it is art of designing buildings, it's a very short thing, but it is not. It is a very complex field. It starts with a very small building at a very small scale, a vernacular small hut is also architecture, and very complex buildings like airports and convention centers and huge complex buildings, they are also architecture. So it is over the years, like I've been in this field for almost 30 years now, since I started education in 1995. So it is evolving every year. The complexity is increasing. Earlier, the buildings used to be smaller, and like architecture is evolving every day. There is technological advancements. The new materials are coming into market. New technologies are there. So we have to constantly keep updating ourselves, and lots of new software are coming. So the students have to be always students or even architects always have to be actively updating themselves, and hence it makes it very interesting. So when I was doing my architecture, we had subjects like town planning and urban planning. So that time I got interested in planning field as well, because planning is all about designing cities. So from designing buildings, you graduate to designing cities, and that was also very interesting. So I decided to pursue my master's specialization in urban and rural planning at IIT Roorkee. So now urban and rural planning, you deal with designing of all the cities and rural areas, which is again going one step ahead and very interesting. While I was doing my master's, there was this Gujarat earthquake in 2001, which happened that time. And I thought that since we are focusing so much on designing of buildings and cities, and if they are not safe, then what is the point? So that kind of attracted my interest, and I did my master's dissertation on how as architects and planners we should deal with disasters. Disaster management was not a very common term that time. We did not even have the Disaster Management Act, but since disasters were happening around us, it was a need. And I first took up my master's dissertation in earthquake disaster management with focus on Gujarat, and after that I took my master's thesis to the PhD level. I did earthquake disaster management in one of the Himalayan regions where there were cities and lots of villages under in that area, and I checked how prepared our settlements are for handling any kind of disasters and made the plans accordingly. So that was my research and my motivation. After that, as you introduced me, I was taking consultancy projects for disaster management. So architectural consultancy I was doing. Along with that, I was also giving consultancy to UN and different government bodies for basically earthquake disaster management. So that became my specialization later. So that was my journey. And if we talk about architecture as field, all that also has grown in past so many years, because when we started, environmental issues were not that critical that time, but now it is getting more and more critical. Our carbon footprints are gaining more attention, although that time also it was there, but now we do not have time to thing. So that sensitivity has to be there right from the beginning. So the whole focus of architecture education and all is there on the complexity, handling the complexity of the buildings. So that is how it is growing and evolving, and yeah, that is how we have to keep pace with the industry.
Excellent. Well, when it comes to becoming a good architect, so I really don't know because this is not our field. But then every field has some set of norms and forms. So what kind of norms and forms are there for those if somebody is willing to make a career in architecture? So what kind of things are required to become a good architect in terms of architectural style, design, visualization, or whatever it requires? So I want some reflection on that. And added to that, ma'am, you also please reflect, because when I asked you how it evolved over the period of time, so we would like to know we had something like ancient architecture. Hmm.
Hmm.
And now we have modern architecture. I don't know what is truth, but it seems that ancient architecture seemed to be more superior to modern architecture, whatever be the fact. So kindly, reflect on this also. First, you can reflect on what it requires to become a good architect, and then you can, throw some light, in terms of a comparative study of, ancient architecture and modern architecture. Yes, over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. So, if we talk about good architecture, what is good or bad? So, any architecture that is sensitive to its surrounding is good architecture, and that's why maybe like you're saying that earlier architecture, the traditional architecture was always better because it was not depending too much upon all the latest gadgets which we had. So they were designing according to the climate, and that is why the buildings are still very much functional, although they have their own limitations as well. But still, if we talk about environment and people and culture, though that architecture is very important, and there is so much to learn from that. So if we have to make good architects, so the first and foremost requirement is they have to be sensitive. Now they have to be sensitive to different aspects. Like if we talk about physical aspects, then whenever there is a site, it has a natural topography. You have to be sensitive to that. You have there will be some vegetation, there'll be the soil condition, the groundwater. So whatever climatic condition, the temperature, water availability, everything of physical nature has to be taken care of. So if we just say ki, okay, there is a sloping slide, we'll just cut and make it flat, or if there are trees, we'll just remove all the trees, design our building, and then we'll plant more trees. So it doesn't solve the purpose. It doesn't kind of, you're not responding to the context. So one is physical context. The second, which is very equally important, is social context. Again, we have to understand who are the clients, what kind of people they are, understand their lifestyle, and then accordingly design to them. So again, there is a mismatch. So right now, when we are seeing those buildings and criticizing them, they are not actually taking enough care of the physical context and the social context. So if we talk about social context, people live in a certain way everywhere. So it is there will be a difference between how a Rajasthan family is staying in a house and how a Kerala family in Kerala is staying in their house, because their traditions, customs, everything is different. So here also in metro cities, when we see design of flats, so we are copying so much from the West. We are just taking their even layouts and all, which is not working well for us. Although people, when they buy, they will adjust themselves, but then that is not how we want to live. For example, I'll give you very short examples. Like in every Indian households, puja room is one important component, because there are almost, I think all the houses will have some puja corner. But in the new apartment buildings, you rarely find a special place designed for puja. Then many times we remove our
I think
footwear
now you are
outside.
talking of Vastu. Now you are talking of Vastu.
It's not vastu. It's like how we live, how we use our spaces. If the space is not there, then we make adjustments. But this is not how an architect should design the buildings. That's what I'm saying, because we're
Okay.
talking about good architecture. So we have to understand how the people live, how they think, what they do in their houses, and then accordingly design spaces for them. So that is social context. Then there is economical context as well, because people will always have money constraints. They will have a budget. So you have to think about that and then design. So, and obviously environmental context, if you are taking care of the physical aspects and social aspects, well, then definitely the environmental context will also be reflected. So when you are actually making a design considering all these aspects, all these contexts, then it will be called as good architecture, rather than just copy pasting or making the same building everywhere. That is, again, we land into more problems than solutions. So that is how I think a good architecture should be defined.
Excellent. So I think this also leads me to, raise a pertinent question, and that is, related to environment. Today, due to environmental concerns, especially, for sustainable living, what kind of precautions should be taken by the builders as well as common man? वैसे वास्तु के दृष्टिकोण से तो हम थोड़ा बहुत ध्यान रखते हैं, पर सस्टेनेबल एंड एनवायरमेंटल या एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली हाउस के दृष्टिकोण से हम आर्किटेक्चरल डिजाइन पे उतना ध्यान नहीं दे पाते. सो हियर आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू काइंडली फॉरवर्ड सम आर्किटेक्चरल टिप्स. वैसे आपने भी कुछ टिप्स दिए हैं, but I want some major tips for those who are thinking of or are in the process of, constructing house or any other structure. Yes, over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. So the most important tip is uh, we have to design our building according to the natural elements. Like we'll have sun. So we should know where the sun goes from, east to west through south. So we have to design our opening so that we get maximum natural light, but then the sun is not heating up our interiors, because if we have those glass walls on the west sides, which we see everywhere around, then a lot of heat is generated, and to counter that we have to have big AC plants. So if we design our building, so we call it passive techniques. So if we use all the passive techniques, like a proper use of sunlight, heat, natural heat, the wind, the shades, so everything, then if you design the building properly, then the requirement of active cooling and active heating and lighting, everything will come down. So that is how we respond to the sustainable aspects. After that, so that is again, and also the materials which we are using. So there are different rating systems for green buildings. So even if we are going for green ratings, then definitely many things will be mandatory. But even if you are not going for a green building, like it's a personal house and you don't want any certification, but still all those points will be important. So if it is a bigger building in which you want to have those green certifications, because with green certifications, government also gives lots of incentives. You get extra FAR, you get some tax benefits. So depending on which state you are in, lots of benefits are given by the government for constructing green buildings. So the major rating systems are the international ones are LEED and EDGE. So these are the US based and the World Bank systems. And the Indian systems are IGBC, Indian Green Building Council, and the GRIHA, which is developed by TERI. So any certification you can, if you go for, then you have to have all these passive strategies, and you have to show that how your building is responding in a more, your building is kind of sustaining in a more natural way. And then you get those benefits. So that is one motivation. Otherwise, even if it is a personal house or personal project which you do not want ratings, but still, if you take these passive strategies, sometimes the cost of the building goes little higher, but then in the long run, it always is beneficial for the client to have a more sustainable building. So it is responsibility of the architect.
Sorry to intervene, ma'am, here. Actually, I have a question here, which is very, pertinent related to what you are saying. The question is, like when you say that design should be like this or like that, so is there any monitoring body or a body which can audit our design, whether our design is up to mark or not? Is there any body in our society or country or anywhere in the world which keeps a tab on the design of the construction?
Yeah, there are bodies like we have to get approval for all the construction which we are doing. So government definitely approves, and after the approval on the maps, then only we can actually construct any project. But
Even for
many
normal
times,
house, even for normal
yeah,
house,
yeah.
what you
Even
mean?
for normal house, you have
Okay.
to get the building plans approved, and they will see if all the norms which are laid by the government are complied or not. So there will be some height restriction, FAR restriction, and all the plans will be sanctioned, approved. And government has also given lots of guidelines about the safety standards and everything, and all those have to be complied. The plans, which the drawings which will you will take to the government, they will be reviewed properly, and then only the approval is given. But definitely there are lots of malpractices which happen, especially in India, that many times on ground things are different, and the approval drawings there are mismatches. So that is again a different problem altogether. But yeah, there is a system of approving and checking if all the compliances are being made or not.
Right, right. Well, since we are in an academic setup in which we offer, formal education, or I can say formal degree in architecture and planning. So my question here is, or even it seems, first of all, that there is a need to prepare our 5% syllabus based on our recent policy of new education. It says that there should be a 5% syllabus based on IKS components. So my question here is, what kind of efforts are being made to integrate our ancient Indian knowledge system into modern architecture? Have you, identified, what kind of, 5% components can be integrated in our modern curriculum? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Personally, I feel it should be more than 5% because we have such huge history and such huge knowledge, especially when I'm talking about the building field. So, and that is if we do not pay attention, if we do not nurture it, it will go like it will just vanish because formally it has to be part of the curriculum. Otherwise, we are not doing justice to what rich heritage value we have, especially when architecture is concerned. So, although since architecture is governed by Council of Architecture, the curriculum and all these decisions will be made at the central level, and that will be conveyed to all the universities, all the colleges which are offering architecture program. And similarly for planning also we have ITPA, which is Institute of Town Planners India. They are already working on the NEP implementation, and they are managing and taking care of Indian knowledge system, which can be put as part of the curriculum. So whenever we get the guidelines, we'll implement accordingly. But yeah, it is very, very important in architecture as well as town planning. In architecture, again, a draft curriculum revision for NEP implementation has been circulated. So that is also in process. We all are working towards it. We all are giving our inputs to Council of Architecture. And I think by next year or so, we will be implementing NEP and revising our curriculums with more focus on Indian knowledge systems.
Excellent, excellent. This also reminds me of, when this will be implemented, maybe we can also see something like we used to, hear in our childhood that, Vishwakarma ji, made this or that, even Lanka was, remade by Vishwakarma ji, kind of thing, So I don't know what kind of literary text do we have which will, explore this kind of, architectural design. So let's be hopeful, and the person like you, I think, will definitely contribute a lot in this area. Very nice. So further to your reflection, ma'am, I have a pertinent question again, from employment or job perspective. My question here is, I can say it's driven by a fact that our world is changing at a very fast pace. Today, we do not know what does the future hold for us, because the career flights that our students are taking today will not necessarily land them at the right airport after 5 or 10 years. So in this kind of state of uncertainty, how do you look at the career prospect or job prospect of architecture and planning in near future? Because another threat is also like AI integration in every field. So kindly reflect on this, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So, like it has been discussed in our circles as well for architects and planners, because AI integration is happening very, very rapidly, and in a very short time, AI can generate multiple options. But definitely, it cannot replace human mind. So definitely, it will save on time. We will be able to produce more work in lesser time, but will be a need for architect, and especially in countries like developing countries like India, where there is so much of growth which is going to happen in next so many years. So I think it's a very good time for all the architects and planners to be in this field, because our country, if we see the international standards, there is a acute shortage of architects and planners in our country. But definitely we still see that the employment opportunities are not that good right now. But we just have to have patience, because architecture is a profession. It's though any student who takes up this subject and graduates with an architecture degree, there is always an option of starting his own practice. So in practice, initially it takes time to establish yourself, but once you establish, it takes some 7 8 years to actually make good contacts and have good projects. So that patience has to be there. So patience and hard work is the key if you have to start your own practice. And also business skills. So even if you are a very good designer, very good architects, but if you are starting your own practice, you have to have good business skills. So people who are coming from business backgrounds and all, they're generally naturally they know how business works. So that'll be always their strength. And once you kind of establish your own practice, but later on when you want bigger projects from government or any big project, then a master's degree is kind of is required. So many students go in for master's degree specializations right in the beginning of their careers, which is also a good option to get. Otherwise, you can start your own practice, know where your interest lies, and then go for specialization. And specializations, if I talk about, generally people go in for two streams. One is Master of Planning and one is Master of Architecture. So architects can take any field. So if you go for Master of Planning, then the options are, you can go for environment planning, you can choose transportation planning, because that is also a very pertinent area where all our cities are facing huge problems. You can go for housing, you can go for regional planning, rural planning. So there are lots of options if we are going for planning. If somebody wants to go for master in architecture, they can go for MArch in sustainable design, MArch in building conservation, which will focus only on the heritage buildings. They can even go for urban design, landscape design. So there are lots of options for Master of Architecture also. So depending on your interest, you can choose your specialization and then get projects in that. Or if you go for masters, then again there is always a good scope for getting into multinational companies and getting a good career ahead. So that is those are two options. So people select depending on their temperament. Either they go for practice or they go for masters and then getting into jobs.
Great. I'm sure all your words will be of great help for the aspiring architects. So समय की थोड़ी मर्यादा है, इसलिए I think it's time to conclude. And to conclude our interaction, as usual, we request all our guests to give a message of peace and progress to mankind at large, so that we could create a better human, better society, better nation, better planet, for a better world. So kindly forward a message of peace and progress for our viewers, for the society. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. So my message for peace would be like, I just feel that all our problems, the environment problems, or all the problems which our cities are facing right now, is because of greed and because of selfish nature of human beings, that we are not caring enough for others. So we have to, okay, personal interest is there, but then we have to be sensitive to the community interest, to the interest of nation, to the interest of universe as whole. So once we have that in our thinking, that our personal interest, okay, I'm not saying that there should be no personal interest, it will always there, it will always be the motivation, but then at the same time you have to think about the community, what kind of impact your decisions are making on the environment, on the nation. If everybody, all of us are conscious of that, it will definitely reflect in all our decisions and all our actions, and I think peace and harmony will definitely follow that. So that is how we should have a small start in our thinking and spread it wherever we can. That
Great. So
is.
very, very, very thoughtful of you, ma'am. And it was indeed a great pleasure to have talked to you today. And ma'am, we are immensely grateful to you for your scholarly presence with us today. और शिक्षा जगत में आपके उत्कृष्ट एवं सराहनीय कार्यों के लिए लाइफ एक्सप्रेस की जूरी ने आपके लिए एक अवार्ड की घोषणा की है, और वो अवार्ड है लाइफ एक्सप्रेस अवार्ड ऑफ आइकॉनिक एकेडमिशियन। और आपके इस उपलब्धि पर मैं आपको अपने इंटेलेक्चुअल व्यूअर्स की ओर से ढेरों बधाई देता हूं। हार्टिएस्ट कांग्रेचुलेशंस।
Thank you so much.
God willing, we shall meet again in some other academic forum. So thank you once again for connecting with us today. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jha.
LXP Award of Iconic Academician is proudly presented to Professor Ela Gupta for her exemplary contributions to Indian academia on 18th July 2025.
आज के सत्र की समाप्ति हम फिर एक आह्वान से करेंगे, खासकर डॉक्टर ईला गुप्ता की बातचीत से निकले कुछ मुख्य अंश को लेकर। डॉक्टर ईला ने सबसे पहले अपने शैक्षणिक और पेशेवर जीवन के बारे में बताया, फिर उन्होंने आर्किटेक्चर के विकास तथा एक अच्छे आर्किटेक्ट बनने के लिए आवश्यक गुणों, प्राचीन और आधुनिक वास्तुकला की तुलना, पर्यावरण के अनुकूल निर्माण के महत्व और आर्किटेक्चर और नियोजन के भविष्य के करियर के अवसरों पर भी चर्चा की। उन्होंने बताया कि एक अच्छे आर्किटेक्ट को भौतिक, सामाजिक और आर्थिक संदर्भों के प्रति संवेदनशील होना चाहिए और टिकाऊ निर्माण प्रथाओं को अपनाना चाहिए। उन्होंने यह भी बताया कि भविष्य में AI का एकीकरण आर्किटेक्ट्स के काम करने के तरीके को बदल देगा, लेकिन मानव रचनात्मकता और निर्णय लेने की क्षमता को पूरी तरह से प्रतिस्थापित नहीं करेगा। अंत में उन्होंने शांति और प्रगति का संदेश दिया, जिसमें उन्होंने बताया कि our problems, especially the environment problems or all the problems which our cities are facing in modern time is because of greed and because of the selfish nature of human beings. She emphasized on caring for others. We have to be sensitive to the community interest, to the interest of the nation, to the interest of the universe as a whole. And once we have that in our thinking, it will definitely reflect in all our decisions and all our actions. And peace and harmony will definitely follow that. With those deliberations of Dr. Ela Gupta, we close today's episode और मिलते हैं अगले एपिसोड में एक नए समाज के रोल मॉडल से। टिल देन एंजॉय योर टाइम मीनिंगफुली, और हाँ, अपना और अपनों का भी ख्याल रखें। जय हिंद।